very experienced executive, 3 decades at Pepsi, where he's done a lot of businesses, run their e-commerce business, ran the Quaker Oats business in North America. Has obviously been the CFO since 2010. Done mergers and acquisitions. Been the face of the company to the finance community, is known for being sort of conservative guidance and over delivering on the financial targets. So just a real experienced hand at a time of great turmoil, as you mentioned, at Disney.
Yeah, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about that. And this is Hugh Johnston, who we were talking about. If you didn't get his name, that's who the CFO is at Pepsi right now, who's coming into Disney. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about the board right now at Disney at the C-suite level. That we have the CFO who vacated due to a medical absence, I believe it was. And what's going on with Bob Iger? How much longer is he going to stick around at the top?
Well, of course, brought back now 1 year ago after the tumultuous reign of Bob Chapek, and Bob Iger, known historically as a steady hand, has had his own shaky first year back. There's really so many things in the air, and I think that's one of the things that he'll have to address on Wednesday when they do the earnings call. We've reported they're potentially selling their India media business. They've announced they're going to buy back the one third of Hulu that Comcast owns, so a potentially $10 billion deal. Iger's talked about selling their traditional TV channels like ABC. He's looking for a strategic partner at ESPN. There's so much going on outside of the normal course of business there. So, they obviously need somebody who can talk to the financial community and help raise money and all that.
Hey, so Chris, you've covered the Walt Disney Company probably as long as I have. You're right out there in LA. You're in right where the entertainment industry really lives here. Talk to us about kind of where are they on the actors strike? That seems like something that should be a quick fix relative to everything else that this industry is facing.
It certainly seems like we're very close on settling the actor strike, but we've been hearing that for a couple of weeks now. Bob Iger's been personally involved in both with the actors and the writers. He's one of the quote big four studio executives that's been in the room, or at least on Zoom during these negotiations. It seems like the actors are going to get a pretty good deal. Not everything they wanted, but sizable increases in pay. And so we're all just sort of awaiting when that news comes, and if there can now sort of pivot to salvage the TV season, which was supposed to start in September and now is earliest maybe in February.
So tell us then, Chris, given all of these things that you just mentioned, we've got the actors strike, we've got the new CFO coming in, there's also, the potential sales of certain units or buying back some other ones. How's the analyst community sizing up Disney's earnings? You said we've got that coming on Wednesday, I believe.
Surprisingly, given all we talked about, I think it's actually supposed to be a good report.
That is surprising.
There's been a lot of cost cutting at Disney this year. Remember, 7,000 layoffs. All of these media companies have been surprising, both because of cost cutting and the fact that there's no production going on. They're saving a lot of money on those TV shows and movies they would otherwise be spending money on. And of course, everyone will be looking at the streaming business and how big the losses are, if making any progress in reducing that. Disney had said they're going to break even by next year in that business, which has just lost billions of dollars over the recent years.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, again, you're right out there in LA. You go to all the cocktail parties with the power players. They've got to be really scared. I mean, because they just don't know how their business is going to evolve. It was such a good business where everybody made money. The cable companies made money, the programmers made money, the advertisers made money. Now this streaming model has really upended all the economics that a whole couple of generations of people have kind of grown accustomed to out there. What's the feeling out there in terms of angst?
It is anxious. It's funny you mentioned cocktail parties. I went to an event at the LA County Museum on Saturday night, and Bob Iger's wife Willa Bay is on the board, and we kind of expected it's literally right next door to the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild building, too, to put it all in context. We just assumed he's been there. He was going to be there. He's been there in the past. did not show up. So I shouldn't read anything into that, but definitely everyone was talking about the strike. It's a big deal, and everybody just really wanting to return to work. There are shows that are just waiting to get restarted, and we're seeing it in what we watch too. I mean, there's reruns that are now the hottest shows on Netflix. Movies are getting postponed in some cases by years. So it's really, you're beginning to see the impact.
Chris, I wanted to come back to Hugh Johnston here for a minute, the incoming CFO, longtime executive at Pepsi. My first thought, and maybe this is a bit elementary, but maybe if I'm thinking it, someone else is too. This is a guy who's working at a company who's famous for soda and snack food and, more like consumer discretionary goods of that nature. Like, what does or consumer staples rather. But I mean, how does that then work for him coming into a company that is so vastly different than that, obviously still in the consumer space, but on the media side of the business? And if he could be potentially a CEO candidate down the line, does he really have the background that Disney might be looking for?
It's an issue. I'm old enough to remember John Scully coming from Pepsi to Apple, and it was not a great run he had there. And there are some interesting echoes here. At Pepsi, they also faced a sort of proxy fight with Nelson Peltz, the activist who's now also active in trying to get board seats at Disney, so that may come in handy. If you do some research, you'll find that when Hugh Johnson joined the Twitter board a few years ago, there was a lot of commotion because it was the first time he actually signed up for a Twitter account. So yeah, does he have the media experience to lead one of the largest media companies in the world? No, it doesn't seem that way. But as we were talking about earlier, he is a very seasoned corporate executive with a lot of experience in consumer products.